Hey, thank you so much for joining me in this next video. I think it's a really important video, and that's obviously why I'm recording it. I think it's hugely important. A lot of times in my videos, I'm talking about marketing stuff, and I think marketing is probably the number one skill set that any entrepreneur needs to learn. Whether you're a realtor, a real estate investor, or like us, you have that business and you have other businesses that are completely non-related. Marketing seems to be the one business that for most, I'm sorry, the one skill that for most entrepreneurs is elusive. They're unable to figure out how to get a consistent, predictable customer in front of them in order to keep the business going and growing. But aside from all that, I think what's even more important is that specifically if you're married or planning on being married, I think this video is important because chances are, if you are married, you've married someone who is completely different than you. That's probably what attracted them to you. My wife and I have now been married for only 4 years, but 4 years you learn quite a bit. For some of you who are rolling your eyes who've been married for 10 or 15 or 20, or like a lot of my family who've been married for like 50 and 70 years, hang with me, because if you've been married a long time and you figured out how to make it work, that's amazing, and congratulations. But if you're starting a business and you're entering that business into that relationship, it's important that you understand how conversations can go, and really kind of how they should go. The fact that you should have conversations, that communication, you already know, if you've been married for a long time, you know that communication is critical to the success of your marriage. And by the way, if your marriage is not having success, it's going to be hard for your business or businesses to have success, because both of you, essentially, you're going to have to make decisions together on everything that you do. So one of the things that, years ago, my wife and I would butt heads like crazy. In fact, the conversation that I hated having was about budgeting. I like to spend money. My wife likes to save money. I like to invest money. My wife, I keep calling her my life. Well, I guess it's kind of the same, right? My wife, Diana, wants to save it because we come from very, very different backgrounds, different experiences. I'm the risk taker entrepreneur. She's now an entrepreneur, but she wasn't when we first started dating and got married. And we had a very difficult time helping her to kind of cross over from an employee mindset to a business owner mindset, and all the other things that come with that. I mean, if you can imagine that, and the difficulty of crossing over from what Robert Kiyosaki would call the E quadrant over to the S quadrant or the B quadrant or the I quadrant. If you don't know what I mean, check out Robert Kiyosaki cash flow quadrants. Amazing, amazing lessons on really the mindsets of people depending on kind of how you earn your income. And they're very, very different. You're going to find that they're night and day. And so that's a problem when you're having conversations, even on about the most basic stuff, how you're going to budget your money, things like that. And it was conflict like crazy until she and I got on the same page. And before we got on the same page, I mean, I hated talking about the budget. I mean, I didn't dislike it. I hated it because it meant that for me, it was taking away something from me. At least that's what I thought, right? It's power to go spend. But from her perspective, it was like taking away security and the ability to keep money. And so if you're looking at becoming an investor or a realtor, or you already are one and you're finding that you and your spouse are going bananas, banging your heads against the wall, trying to figure out, how do I communicate to this person that, if you're like me, you want to invest and grow your income, or if you're like her, you want to make sure that you've got some income that's protected and saved that you don't touch. And both are important, right? Both are critical. Then I want to just share what we're doing that has dramatically revolutionized our marriage, to where I love talking about budgeting, because I'll tell you in a minute, there's a little bit extra that I get because of it. And she now loves more and more the idea of entrepreneurship and investing as she sees what I've been doing and how I make our income grow and how I do really two main basic things. One, every year and every month, so 12 months out of the year, my goal is to increase our assets. Our assets are what put money in our pocket, and decrease our liabilities. Liabilities are things that take money out of our pockets. So my whole goal every month is to increase the amount of assets, the golden goose that's laying the golden eggs. I want more golden gooses, so it lays more golden eggs for us, which increase our assets. And then I'm looking at, through our budgeting, etc., how to reduce our liabilities, those things that would kill our golden gooses, right? If you get in tons of debt and you don't know what you're doing, you'll create lots of liabilities that will kill all of your golden gooses, right? It'll eat up the golden eggs because you're heavily in debt, and and so that's that. Even what I just said to you right now may or may not make a whole lot of sense. Just know this: assets put money in your pocket. So if you and liabilities take money out of your pocket. So if you have a car, your car is an asset if you work for Uber or Lyft, right? And you pick people up and they put money in your pocket. That car is now an asset. But if you don't, and you drive your car around, it's a liability, right? You paid money for it, or if you're paying payments, it took money out of your pocket. All right. If you live in a house right now that doesn't put money into your pocket, which probably does not if you're living in it, if it's an investment property and after all the expenses it puts money in your pocket, it's an asset. It's cash flowing positive. If you live in it and you're spending money every month on the mortgage, it's liability. Again, all this from Robert Kiyosaki's books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, for example. Great stuff. So with that to say, my wife and I, let me see if I can find it here real quick before I get into it. Let's see. My wife and I love to go to our favorite little coffee spot 4 times a month. And I'll put this right here in the middle here. And what we figured out was if we can make these conversations enjoyable for us both, we'd be in a good setting. And we've got, at the time of this video, I've got a 9-month-old, right? So it isn't easy because we bring them, right? There's no babysitter. I mean, we could, but we're geeky parents that we haven't gotten comfortable to that idea yet. But we've got him with us, and we're having our favorite tres leches, which means 3 milks. That's a little muffin to the right. And then she gets her horchata latte caliente, which is, I don't even know how to translate that, but it's a fancy latte that I guess you get in primarily Mexico. My dad's from Cuba, so I get a cubano con leche. It's a Cuban coffee. It's got enough caffeine to kill 3 elephants. So if you love caffeine, it's awesome. And it's one of those big oversized dishes like that. My point is that as a married couple, we make this enjoyable now to have these conversations that otherwise would be pretty darn uncomfortable. And so now we can have conversations about, as you see up at the top, business. And we have several businesses, so we have to talk about how those businesses are performing and what advertisement campaigns need to be done, what things that we need to do to fix things, to make things better, to grow the income in those businesses. It takes time. So you're, as you see down there below, it's got January, February, March, and you're looking over time. How are these businesses performing? What could we do better? What should we do less of? That kind of stuff. And we'll focus one day out of the week at our favorite place, having our favorite foods, low carb, low sugar, right? Or maybe not. But anyway, talking about an enjoyable topic, business, or businesses in our case. And then another day out of the week, the following week, we sit and we talk about our investment portfolio. We also talk about our budget that same day too. So we sit down and we talk about our spending. How can we reduce spending? Because that's a liability. It's taking money away from us. It's stealing our ability to invest if it's a liability. If it's an asset, it's increasing our ability to invest in our different holdings. So we'll spend a couple of hours talking about our budget and our investment portfolio. You know, where do we need to grow things? Where do we need to rebalance our portfolio? That kind of stuff. Where in our budget, you know, am I getting too many of these coffees and muffins? Because I'm going to Starbucks all the time, right? We try not to get all nitpicky about that, but listen, if you're married, you know what I'm talking about. If you're planning on being married, you're going to know what I'm talking about. If you've been married for a long time, you definitely know what I'm talking about. These are conversations that can either make or break a marriage, because money is the number one reason that people will divorce. So you got to have this conversation, and you got to have it in an environment where it's enjoyable, where it's positive, where you're excited about the future. You know, I'm at the time of this video, I'm 43. My wife's a lot younger. And, you know, we've got, hopefully, God willing, a life ahead of us. And so we've got to do this planning. And if you're older than me, you got to do this planning. It just may be a little bit different with less time. So you might need to be a little bit more aggressive in certain areas and maybe less aggressive in others. Don't worry, there's still good news. There's still things that you can do. But you got to do it. And then the next thing is spiritual goals. And that's probably the first thing I would say. You know, my wife and I are Christians, and we're not ashamed of that. And that's what we spend most of our time outside of our business doing. And we're heavily involved in our church. And so we plan how we're going to spend our time and invest in those types of things, which we believe dictate all of the other stuff, right? So we'll spend a day out of the week talking about our spiritual goals. And that, again, helps us to monitor and keep a balanced life, so that way in our marriage and our relationship with God, you know, we're balanced, or at least we're trying to be. Sometimes we're out of balance, and that's part of being human, but, you know, that's why we meet weekly to find that balance. And then finally, in the fourth week, or somewhere in, you know, it's scheduled within one of the 4 weeks, we're working on our calendar, how to schedule time for all this stuff, different things that we might be doing within these categories. We schedule it, because if it's not written on paper, it's not going to happen. You know, successful people write down their goals, and so we write it down. We say if we write it down, it's going to happen. If we don't, it's not. And so hopefully this video has been helpful for you if you're married or planning on being married, or you've been married a long time and you're finding that you want to, you know, invest in real estate or any business, but specifically for the matter of this series, that you invest in. If you're wanting to invest in real estate, you've got to figure out where you're going to get the money to invest in the tools. You know, we obviously provide a software tool that is a business in a box, so it provides all that you need. You don't need anything else. You just need the box. And for a couple $100, literally, you can have an entire virtual real estate investing business that requires no money down and no credit no out of pocket, no credit. I literally have, in the last 9 years, have put $0 into any of my deals, and the software allows me to have a virtual business. So in the last 9 years, I have not seen any property buyers or sellers. I've controlled the entire business from my home or anywhere I wanted to. Starbucks, you know, getting my venti overpriced cafe or caffeine bucket. And so you've got to have that conversation. You've got to have your budget. You've got to talk about investing, how much money is going to be allocated to whatever. You've got to have your spiritual goals and your calendar to put it all on paper, so it's all planned out for the month. And you got to come back. You got to plan. You've got to do, and then you've got to review. And that's what this setup does. So find a place. You don't have to leave. If you can't leave, stay home, and do it pick one day where you do that. But do it, because you'd be surprised. And even if it's small amounts of money that is being allocated to the business or to your investment portfolio or whatever, that's cool. The key is not how much money you're spending. It's that you're investing, that you've got the discipline, that you're building the habit. That's the key. All right. And it doesn't have to be these 4 categories. It could be other categories. Maybe you want to do health and wellness as one of yours. Right. I know I can lose a few pounds, so you could add that. You know, maybe meet twice a week. Whatever it is for you, it's irrelevant. The point is that you're doing it, and that you're seeing progress. You're planning, you're doing, and then you're reviewing and inspecting what you expect. You're taking a look and seeing, is this working? Is, like on this business one right here, are we going up and to the right, or are we going sideways, or are we going down? And then you adjust. Don't beat up on yourself. Just adjust. It'll work out. So anyway, hopefully this works. Or I know it works. Hopefully it helps is what I meant to say. Get yourself some coffee. If you want some coffee that'll help you be successful, get Cuban coffee. Not that I'm biased. All right, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but you know, that plus some tres leches, 3 milks is what it means. It's got different types of milk in this thing. It's, you know, I don't know. It's great. It's good stuff. Get it. Succeed. Hope you enjoy this video. I'll see you in the next.